Hello. Today we are going to see the relation between auto levelers and mass irregularity. Before we learn anything about auto levelers, we must know the theory on mass irregularity and how it works. So let us just know the aim of the auto levelers. Auto leveler is nothing but it's an instrument to eliminate deviations in mass, but they would be eliminating certain deviations only of certain types and lengths. So before we go to auto leveler, we must understand what are the types and the lengths of various classification of mass irregularity. It is a system used for monitoring the quality of the yarn in terms of its mass irregularity. There are, of course, there are other monitoring systems on a particular machine for machine, which ensures that the machine if is stopped if the sliver breaks or when it runs out, or if a lap formation is there. If there is any problem with the machine, then in that case the monitoring system will stop it. Then there are certain monitoring systems related to production, and these monitoring systems respond when there are interruptions in the machine operations by calculating efficiency and quantity produced per machine. They calculate that, and if they find that there is a deviation, lot of deviation in production, then those monitoring systems would act accordingly. So in short, auto levelers are related to the monitoring of quality of the yarn, and quality, when we say, it means the mass irregularity, and it will be able to deal with only certain types of irregularities depending on type and length. So before we try to understand the different types of auto levelers that are available, we should know what are the types and lengths of mass irregularity. So before we go to the mass irregularity, the types and lengths of them, first let us clear our basics with wavelength and amplitude. The amplitude and the wavelength are the two important characteristics of a periodic irregularity. So when we talk of periodic irregularity, the wavelength and amplitude, we need to understand what are these two characteristics of any particular wave. So wavelength is the distance between any two successive thick or thin places on the yarn. So if I were to plot thick and thin places on a graph, and we were to get a wave, so the distance between any two successive thick or thin, suppose I get a thick place at one place, and the next thick place comes after a certain length of the sliver is delivered. So that distance is called as a wavelength, and this particular thick place would be appearing at almost equal distances over the length of the sliver. Then I can find out the wavelength of this particular thick place. So here we have a representation of this, and just to understand what is a wavelength. So if this, I assume that this is a thick place, this is the mean value of the sliver, and if this is a thick place, then distance between, or the length between length of sliver in between two successive thick places would be my wavelength. Amplitude is the intensity of the fault introduced. So if the fault varies from the mean to a very large extent, or whatever extent it extends up to, this would be the amplitude. So the highest most serious thick place would be of a certain thickness varying from the mean value. So this is how we can understand amplitude. Now there are different varieties. There can be two waves of having the same amplitude and different wavelengths. So it would look like this. And if I were to talk of two wavelengths with same wavelength but different amplitudes, then it would be represented in this manner. The wavelength of a periodic irregularity tells us the type of the defect that may appear in the fabric due to the particular fault. So once I understand periodic irregularity, I can predict as to what kind of defect I may be able to see in the fabric. The amplitude of the defect tells us the seriousness of the fault. So the amplitude, if it is too high, I will know that this fault is very, very serious and needs to be tackled immediately. So mass irregularity, now we come to we said that we need to understand what are the various types and lengths that mass irregularity is classified into. So let us look at that. The total irregularity, that is variation in weight per unit length of yarn, can be said to be made up of three basic types. There are three basic types of mass irregularity. The first one is that of a random nature, completely random. The second is a periodic nature, and the third is a quasi-periodic nature. So we will study or understand these three types first, and let us understand what do you mean by when I say that irregularity of a completely random nature, and what are the characteristics. The random irregularity is an unavoidable component of the total irregularity of the material. It appears due to the inherent nature of variability that exists in the raw material. So we all know that a spun yarn, whenever I'm making a spun yarn, it is composed of fibers which are of short lengths. And to get a perfectly uniform yarn, the number of fibers in the cross section of the yarn must be same. Also, in addition to that, which is of course difficult to have same number of fibers in the cross section throughout the length. In addition to that, another problem that we face is the weight per unit length of the fiber is also not uniform, and to get a very ideal yarn, even that should be uniform over the length of the fiber as well as fiber to fiber. So both these conditions which we have just stated is therefore impossible to assemble the fibers into the yarns in such a way, and in such a manner across the length of the yarn in any cross section. Only the variation in number of fibers per cross section can be minimized. So what we can at the most as a technologist do is try to reduce the variation in the number of fibers, because we got no control over the weight per unit length of the fiber, neither the variations that may appear. But what we can try to do is the number of fibers in the cross section we can try to keep constant or try to reduce the variation. So such type of irregularity of random nature is known as random irregularity, and just by the understanding of this we can know that it is highly difficult to really control this, and it would be an unavoidable component of the total irregularity. So coming to the next type of mass irregularity, we saw that it was periodic, which was of periodic nature. Now let us try to understand what I mean by periodic, um, and how does this fault appear and its details. So irregularity in the yarn appearing at regular intervals is known as periodic irregularity. So this kind of an irregularity won't be randomly appearing anywhere. It will be, you can actually see it coming over a period of time, very frequently at a certain point. So drafting is carried out with the help of rollers and aprons. Any deficiency in the roller or the gears that run the roller affects the roller speeds, or even even causes the distance between the roller nips or between the aprons and roller nips to change. So we will see this slightly in detail, how the roller nips change and so on, because if there is roller eccentricity, how it affects the irregularity and periodic nature of it. This will affect the regularity of the material passing in between such rollers. There are some factors that introduce thick and thin places at regular intervals in the material, and such material will definitely show you a periodic irregularity. Now, the reasons for having this periodic nature of irregularity over a length of sliver would be roller eccentricity would be one reason, roller vibration, roller slip are some of the examples which would lead to periodic irregularity. Such a yarn, if you were to check it on Wooster evenness tester, it will not exhibit a very high U percentage. So you will not be really able to detect this kind of a periodic fault easily on a Wooster evenness tester. And if you see, look at it, it would be quite an innocent value where you would feel that it is acceptable. But such kind of periodic faults are very dangerous, because they exhibit defects such as barrenness in the fabric. When you come to the fabric stage, you'll come to know that there was a periodic irregularity there throughout into the yarn, and very difficult to detect by just looking at the U percentage or the CV percentage. The fabric may therefore exhibit patterns of thick and thin places, especially when used as a weft. So what are the possible causes of periodic irregularity? So defective rotational parts, which would be eccentric roller, worn gears, bent bottom roller, or too deep meshing of gears. Then you can also get this kind of periodic irregularity because of incorrectly coiled slivers. We have seen in one of the earlier lectures that there should always be a small distance between the coils that are laid into the can and the can surface, inside of the can surface. So that gap, if it is very low, then it will start brushing against the can surface inside, and it may lead to some kind of periodic irregularity that we are talking about. So the distance should be around 8 to 10 mm. There could be disturbances in the auto leveler, which can also lead to periodic irregularity. Also, incorrectly set comber, the comber which is supposed to remove the short fibers, and during piecing, when the final sliver is made, whatever piecing you get, piecing is done to get a continuous sliver on the comber. So because of that also you might see a periodic irregularity in the output sliver. So after we know the reasons, we will look at one of the reason in detail. All others are quite clear in its own, just by the statement of it. But let us see why roller eccentricity would lead to a periodic variation. So this is a diagram which is showing two different positions of an eccentric roller, position A and position B. We'll just get into that. When the geometric center of a roller and the axis of rotation of the roller, that means geometric center would be this, and the rotation axis would be this particular point which is shown here, they don't match, then the roller is known to be eccentric. So when the center of the roller is offset, following are the two positions of the eccentric front bottom roller. We're talking about the bottom roller, and we have shown two positions of the same roller during rotation. So this roller is rotating, you imagine, and this point after some time will reach here, which looks like case B over here. So the diameter to be considered for calculating the surface speed will be d plus epsilon, which is this distance, which is the distance between the actual roller axis and the axis that is offset over here. So which is the axis of rotation. So the distance between axis of rotation and the geometric center of the roller, whatever distance is there, that is epsilon. And now for considering the surface speed of this particular roller, in this case it would be d plus epsilon, whereas in this case it would be d minus epsilon respectively for the two positions of this bottom roller during its rotation, of course. At the nip, at the moment shown in A, at the nip we are trying to find out the surface speed at this particular moment when the roller is in this position as in A. So the diameter would be d plus epsilon, and at the nip for the moment shown in B, it would be d minus epsilon. And the surface speed of these two moments during drafting will, as you can see, since surface speed is pi d n, since the diameter itself is changing from minute to minute, it will be different. The surface speed will be different at every moment as the rollers are rotating. Therefore, we see that the diameter of the bottom roller shall keep on changing during the single rotation of the eccentric bottom roller. So the moment you find that there is an eccentric bottom roller, you know that the surface speed of this bottom roller is not constant during its running, and it will periodically keep on changing. Again, when this roller comes to this position, it will be d plus epsilon and d minus epsilon, and in between whatever ranges are there, all that will come, and you will keep on having this difference of surface speed throughout throughout all the rotations, and each of it will lead to a periodic fault. So due to the eccentric roller, it leads to a continuous change in its speed during its rotation, and because of this change in surface speed, of course it will lead to a change in the draft between the pair of rollers that are there, and that's because it's a ratio of surface speeds. If the bottom roller, one roller is eccentric, it will change the draft between the pairs, and this will also change cyclically during the rotation of the roller. So now what you get is a thick and thin place will therefore be introduced in the output sliver, and the wavelength of it, that means the distance between the thick or thin place periodically along the length of the sliver would be um, equal to a delivery length per rotation of the eccentric roller, that is of pi into diameter of the eccentric roller. Wherever the periodic fault will be appearing, it will be equal to the length of pi into diameter of the eccentric roller. If the back bottom roller were eccentric, suppose we imagine that in a pair of roller, the back bottom roller is eccentric. So what would be the wavelength of the fault in the output sliver? That means after drafting in that particular zone. Suppose if it is a back bottom roller and we are talking about say the break draft zone, then in that case when the material comes to the main draft zone, what will be the wavelength of this particular sliver which is being processed? So first of all, whatever periodic variation or the irregularity that is introduced, it would be equal to pi into diameter of the eccentric roller. And in addition to it, as soon as the draft is applied, it will be thinned out to that extent, and whatever draft we apply, that also should be considered. So it will be multiplied again by draft between the eccentric roller and the delivery roller. Whatever draft, say if it was to be, it was a break draft, then break draft value would be coming in this in place of this bracket. So if the top rollers are eccentric, it does not produce any faults because the top rollers are run by friction, obviously, and that's why they are not capable of introducing any fault even if they were eccentric. So since it runs due to friction between the top and the bottom rollers, its surface speed does not change. So after understanding this, let us just look into the area where how do we find out that there is a periodic fault or how to detect it. It is, as we said, U percentage or CV percentage does not really highlight the existence of a periodic irregularity. So what we need to do is there should be some other way to detect them well before it reaches the fabric stage. So since it is difficult, it will have and also because it has a great effect on the fabric quality, and also the reason that I just mentioned, that the U percentage or the CV percentage of a yarn, although it is an indication of the evenness of the yarn, it does not really identify a periodic irregularity so easily. So just a small explanation about what is U percentage, what is CV percentage. U percentage is actually a statistical analysis of the data that we have as in calculation of percentage of mean deviation, and CV, as we know, is equal to 1.25 PMD. So almost U percentage, which is a percentage that the Worcester evenness tester gives us, is almost similar to your CV percentage that you already aware of. So yeah, whether it is U percentage or CV, in short, it does not give you an indication of a periodic irregularity. It only gives you the evenness, how even the yarn is. So if the U percentage, just like CV, if it is high, it means that the yarn is uneven and vice versa. So looking at the figure, you will only be able to tell whether the yarn is even or not. A periodic irregularity may not result in a high U percentage. Therefore, a yarn may not exhibit a very high U percentage, and the value of U percentage may be acceptable. We have just seen that earlier in one of the earlier slides also. But such a yarn having periodic irregularity, in spite of its low value of U percentage, will exhibit defects such as barriness in the fabric. The fabric may therefore exhibit patterns of thick and thin places, especially when used in weft. So again, I am highlighting this point. Although U percentage is not able to identify it, it may still give you a problem in the fabric, especially when it is used as a weft. So therefore, what is the way out for us? We have to look at other methods of detecting this periodic irregularity, and that would be the spectrogram. So spectrogram proves useful in detecting such irregularities. So looking after having looked at random irregularity and the periodic irregularity, we come to the third type, and that was mentioned in the earlier slide, that is the quasi-periodic nature. So again, the quasi-periodic irregularity is type of irregularity where a pattern is visible but the waveform is not uniform with respect to wavelength or amplitude. So what we understand is the wavelength also is not uniform. So you cannot call it a periodic wave or a periodic type of irregularity, because one thick place will appear at some place, and next one might not appear at the same distance that you expected. So you really cannot tell why this kind of irregularity has cropped up. Neither is the wavelength constant uniform, and neither is the amplitude. So quasi-periodic irregularity is an irregularity that is in between the two extreme types, that is random and periodic. Such an irregularity is periodic but has a varying wavelength and amplitude, and hence is not a periodic fault. Periodic fault is an avoidable fault, whereas quasi-periodic fault may not be avoidable. So the difference between periodic and quasi-periodic is that quasi-periodic, maybe it is possible that you may not be able to really remove or take care of that fault, whereas periodic fault is very much you can correct it. So only its magnitude. In case of quasi-periodic, maybe only magnitude you can control to a minimum level, but you cannot really eliminate it entirely. The fibers, being of different length, are pulled between roller nips, sometimes out of turn, which results in thick and thin places in the yarn. We have seen this theory before. This fault is known as is coming due to the drafting wave, and therefore the control of fibers can be more effective by using a pair of aprons, and is effective in minimizing the quasi-periodic fault. We said that we cannot really eliminate it, but we can control it. So by having different things like apron in the drafting system, and certain remedies that we have seen in our earlier drafting wave lecture. So taking care of those things might minimize the quasi-periodic irregularity over here. So the only out of the three types that we have seen up till now, whether it is random or periodic or quasi-periodic, what we can really do something only about the periodic fault. The other two types are either you can minimize them, or you have to live with it. I mean, you just cannot eliminate it entirely. So our focus would be on periodic faults and how to take care of them, or how to get rid of them by by taking certain measures, by understanding a little bit in more detail about how to detect a periodic fault, how to identify them, and then fix them. So mass irregularity can also be classified, other than we have the types that we have seen, they are also classified depending on their lengths. So depending on the lengths, the following are the categories. The type of variation, if it is up to 25 centimeters, it would be called as a very short term kind of variation. If it is between 25 centimeters to 2.5 meters, it would be classified as short term. 2.5 to 25 meters would be medium term. Then long term would be 25 meters to 250 meters, and very long would be more than 250 meters. So if the length of the variation, you find that they fall in various categories over here, they would be called as very short, medium, long, and very long, depending on the categories or the lengths that they fall in. And these terms would be useful for us when we learn auto levelers, trying to understand the different types of auto levelers that are there and which type of variation that it addresses. So once we understand this classification, we'll be able to understand the various types of auto levelers, which will be coming in the few lectures later on. So that is it. Today we have learned the relation between um, the mass irregularity, the types, and the length, and for it's a background lecture for understanding the auto leveler. As we know, the main aim of the auto leveler is to reduce the mass deviations. So as we go further into our lectures, we will try and learn more in depth about how to detect a periodic variation, and how auto leveler is able to fix certain type of mass variations that will come up in the sliver. So thank you very much.